In today's episode of Lore Reader Tales, we will go over the story of Timolain the Accursed. The mage Timolain lived in Hearthglen and wanted to fight the Scourge. His fellow crusaders commissioned him to create bows and guns to fight the undead. He once visited Prince Tortheldrin in Diremaul and gave him a complete copy of Nat Pagel's Guide to Extreme Angling. It was spread that he was killed because they supposedly feared the arcane, and either while he was working on or after he had created a powerful weapon. In truth, Timolain had turned to necromancy and created a dark crystal, the counterpart of the holy artifact that fuels the Ashbringer. Before he could put it into a blade, Icilian fed Timolain to a vile slime. During his long and excruciating demise within the slime, Timolain used his necromantic powers to bind himself to a phylactery, and threw the crystal into the Thondroril River. During the Burning Legion's third invasion of Azeroth, the slime was killed by the new High Lord of the Knights of the Silver Hand. Timolain revived with his phylactery, and the crystal retaken. Now some quotes from the Lich version of Timolain. "Ah, the Ashbringer yet lives, curious. You will find no fight here, Paladin. I can do you no harm, and I bear no allegiance to the dark creatures you seek to destroy. What happened to you? I suspect you know. We would not be meeting otherwise. My story is simple. The original wielder of your blade," the character in this dialogue should be holding the Ashbringer, "proved unable to stand against the endless throngs of undead that threatened our world. I sought a different approach, one that could not fail. And what was that? I devised a way to fight the Scourge using their own magic against them. It was a simple process, really. I had a veritable river of souls at my disposal from the Lich King's rampage. In the end, I created a counterpart to the holy relic that fuels the Ashbringer's strength. But before I could properly seat it within a suitable blade, I was found out by Icilian and his dogs. The rest, as they say, was excruciatingly painful. What happened to the crystal? Before I was devoured ever so slowly, I did two things. The first, as should be obvious, was putting my necromantic learnings to the test, sealing my soul within the phylactery you found. It did nothing for the pain of death, but it served its purpose. Afterwards, as I was already half consumed by the creature, I hurled the crystal into the river beside you in hopes that someone might still put it to use against the forces of darkness." Timolain's face consorts into something of a smile. If you seek it, you will find it there. Notes: Timolain was referenced by Bardu and Alexia since Classic, but the questline was not concluded then. It was eventually finished in Legion. Okay, so that's the end of this little thing. I can give a little bit of backstory on this, since I did research this for a video I made a couple years ago. Basically, there was this item in the game called Timolain's Phylactery, which dropped from slimes in the Eastern Plaguelands, in Vanilla WoW, but the thing is, Timolain's Phylactery didn't do anything. It was a unique quest item. It didn't start a quest. It wasn't part of any quests. But, it was a rare drop from these things. And eventually Blizzard just removed it from the game's files, so you couldn't actually get it anymore after patch 1.6 or something. Somewhere in the middle of Vanilla WoW. And that was the last anyone ever saw of it. Now, back in Vanilla WoW, people speculated like crazy about how to get the Ashbringer, because Blizzard hinted the Ashbringer would be in the game in a couple of different ways, but they never actually added the Ashbringer until Legion. And one of the main theories for this was that Timolain's Phylactery was part of the Ashbringer acquisition. So when they did add the Ashbringer, and they added a way to get a hidden skin for the Ashbringer, Timolain's Phylactery was part of that quest chain as kind of a homage to the old Timolain's Phylactery from Vanilla WoW. In fact, the quest chain that allows you to get the secret skin for the Ashbringer basically homaged all of the theories back in the day. So of course they would add Timolain, and they basically created his story based on the speculations from back then, because no one really knew much about Timolain except for a few pieces of lore. Alright, and that concludes the first episode of Lore Reader Tales, where all I do is read Wowpedia pages about minor lore characters, and then give a little bit of my own thoughts and insights on them at the end of it. Remember, none of the videos on this channel are monetized, so I'm basically doing this series just to experiment with sound editing, as the visuals are going to be very lightly edited. since really, the laziest kind of lore videos you can make is just reading Wowpedia pages. I think it's fair to put these videos on a channel in which I don't monetize any of the videos. So, if you have any suggestions for minor lore characters to cover next, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments. There's also going to be one other new series on this channel, which should be coming out very shortly. You guys might enjoy that one a lot more than this one.